The sentence came so suddenly that Emily almost dropped the small gift box in her hand. I wish you'd never been my daughter. Her mother, Linda, stood across the kitchen with her arms crossed. There was no sadness in her face. No regret. Only anger. Emily stared at her for several seconds. It was Mother's Day. She had driven nearly 2 hours to see her mother. She had brought her favorite flowers, a small perfume bottle, and a box of chocolates. She had even written a card. She had spent half the drive thinking about what she would say. Now, none of it mattered. Emily slowly placed the gift on the kitchen table. Mom, she said quietly, why are you saying this? Linda looked away. Because I'm tired of you. Tired of me? Yes. Emily swallowed. She had heard her mother say many cruel things before. But this was different. Her father had died 3 years earlier. Since then, Emily had tried harder than ever to keep the family together. She called her mother every few days. She paid bills when Linda needed help. She drove her to medical appointments. She even helped her younger sister, Megan, when Megan was struggling with money. Emily never asked for anything in return. She only wanted her family to stay close. But over the last few months, something had changed. Her mother had become cold. Megan had stopped answering her messages. Family gatherings happened without her. Whenever Emily asked about them, Linda said the same thing. You are too busy. Or, you wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway. Emily had tried to believe her. But now she could not. She looked at her mother. What did I do? Linda laughed bitterly. You always do this. Do what? Act innocent. I'm not acting. Emily's voice was shaking. If I did something wrong, tell me. Linda stepped closer. You always want answers. You always want to know everything. Because you're my mother. And that gives you no right to interfere in my life. Emily felt her chest tighten. I have never tried to control your life. You think you are better than everyone. No, Mom. I don't. You always have. Emily looked at the gift on the table. For a moment, she wondered if she should simply leave. Then she remembered why she had come. She had hoped Mother's Day might change things. She had hoped they could sit together, talk, and repair what had been broken. Instead, her mother had just told her she wished she had never been born into the family. Emily wiped her eyes. She did not want to cry in front of Linda. Then something strange happened. She smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they suddenly realize something does not make sense. Okay, Emily said. Linda looked surprised. Okay. Emily nodded. Then she picked up her purse. Can't wait for the big family dinner tomorrow. For the first time, Linda's angry expression disappeared. She stared at Emily. Then she laughed. A short, cold laugh. Emily frowned. What? Linda shook her head. You still don't know. Know what? The dinner was yesterday. Emily stopped breathing for a moment. What? The family dinner. Linda walked toward the refrigerator. A photograph was attached to the door with a small magnet. She pulled it down. Then she handed it to Emily. Emily looked at the picture. Her stomach dropped. There was Linda. There was Megan. There were Emily's 2 aunts, 3 cousins, and even her uncle who lived in another city. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was sitting around the same dining table. A huge cake sat in the center. Emily looked closer. The date was written in the corner. Yesterday. She looked at her mother. You had dinner without me. Linda shrugged. You weren't invited. Emily stared at the picture again. Why? Because it wasn't your business. Emily felt something break inside her. She had known the family was becoming distant. But seeing the photograph was different. It was proof. They had all been together. They had all known. And nobody had called her. Not even her mother. Mom, Emily whispered. Why didn't anyone tell me? Linda put the photograph back on the refrigerator. Because we didn't want you there. The words hurt more than the first insult. Emily stood silently. She wanted to ask what she had done. She wanted to demand an explanation. But something stopped her. She noticed the table. There were several empty plates. A folder sat underneath one of them. It was partly hidden. Emily recognized the folder immediately. It had belonged to her father. Her eyes moved back to her mother. "What is that?" Linda quickly picked it up. "Nothing. That looks like Dad's folder." "I said it's nothing." Emily watched her mother carry it toward the hallway. "Mom." Linda stopped. Emily's voice became firmer. "What was discussed at the dinner?" Linda turned around. "Nothing that concerns you." "Then why was Dad's folder there?" Her mother's face changed. Only for a second. But Emily saw it. Fear. Linda quickly covered it with anger. "You need to go." Emily did not move. Did this have something to do with Dad's property? Linda's eyes narrowed. "You've been asking about that again." "Because nobody will give me a straight answer." "There is nothing to answer." "Then why are you hiding the folder?" Linda slammed it onto a small table. "You are obsessed with money." Emily stared at her. "Money?" "Yes. Your father isn't even cold in the ground anymore in your mind. He died 3 years ago. And you're still asking about his things." "I'm not asking for money." "Then what do you want?" "I want to know what happened to the property." Linda said nothing. Emily had expected anger. Instead, she saw something else. Fear again. That scared her more. Her father had owned a small piece of land outside town. It was not a mansion or some huge fortune, but it had value. Before his death, he had told Emily that the property would eventually be shared between her and Megan. Emily had never cared much about it. She had assumed the paperwork would be handled fairly. After her father's death, Linda told her everything was being taken care of. So Emily had trusted her. Now she was not so sure. Did Dad change something before he died? Emily asked. Linda picked up the folder. "Enough. Mom, please. Leave." Emily stared at her mother. For a moment, she wanted to fight. Then she remembered the sentence. "I wish you'd never been my daughter." She slowly nodded. "Fine." She walked toward the door. Her hand was already on the handle when Linda spoke again. "And Emily." She turned. Linda's voice was suddenly calm. "Stop asking questions about things that don't concern you." Emily looked at her. Then she left. She sat in her car for nearly 10 minutes without starting the engine. Tears rolled down her face. She wiped them away. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Megan. Emily opened it. The message contained only 4 words. "You should have been there." Emily stared at the screen. Her heart began beating faster. She typed back. "Where?" The message showed as delivered. No reply came. Emily tried again. "What happened at dinner?" "Nothing." She put the phone down. Then it buzzed again. This time, it was not Megan. It was her aunt, Sarah. The message was even shorter. "Don't trust Mom." Emily froze. She read it twice. Then a second message appeared. "And don't ask Megan about Dad's property." Emily's hands became cold. She looked toward her mother's house. The curtains had been pulled shut. Someone was standing behind them, watching her. Emily started the car. She drove home without calling anyone. That night, she could not sleep. Around midnight, she opened an old box containing her father's belongings. She found his watch, his old wallet, several photographs, and finally, a small envelope. Emily recognized the handwriting immediately. It was her father's. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. There were only 2 sentences. "Emily, if you are reading this, something has gone wrong. Do not trust anyone who tells you the property was given away." Emily stared at the words. Then she turned the page over. There was one more line. A name. A name she had never expected to see. Megan. Emily slowly lowered the paper. Suddenly, the family dinner made sense in a completely different way. They had not simply forgotten her. They had not simply stopped loving her. They had gathered together to discuss something. Something connected to her father. Something they did not want her to know. And for the first time, Emily understood why her mother had laughed when she mentioned the family dinner. Her mother had been laughing because Emily still believed she was part of the family. But someone had already made a decision to remove her from it. Emily looked at her father's letter again. Then her phone rang. It was her mother. Emily answered. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Finally, Linda said quietly, "Emily, where did you get that letter?" Emily's blood ran cold. She had not told her mother about it. She had not sent her a picture. She had not mentioned it to anyone. So how did Linda know? Emily looked at the envelope. Then she heard her mother's next words. "You need to bring that letter to me tomorrow." Emily tightened her grip on the phone. "Why?" Her mother was silent. Then she whispered, "Because your father wasn't supposed to leave that for you." Emily stayed silent on the phone. Her mother's words kept repeating in her mind. "Your father wasn't supposed to leave that for you." Emily looked down at the letter. "What does that mean?" Linda took a breath. "Bring it tomorrow." "No." The answer came before Emily could think about it. Her mother went quiet. Emily had rarely said no to her. "I want an explanation first," Emily said. "There is nothing to explain." "Then why wasn't I supposed to have the letter?" "Emily, you're making this bigger than it is. You knew about the letter." "No, I didn't." "But you just said Dad wasn't supposed to leave it for me." Another silence. Emily knew she had caught her. Linda finally said, "You don't understand what your father wanted." "Then tell me." "I can't." "You mean you won't?" Linda's voice became hard. "Bring the letter tomorrow." Then she ended the call. Emily sat on the edge of her bed. She stared at the phone. For years, she had believed her mother was simply difficult after her father's death. Now she was beginning to wonder if there had been another reason. The next morning, Emily made coffee but barely drank it. She read her father's letter again. There were no details about the property. No explanation. Only the warning. Do not trust anyone who tells you the property was given away. And underneath it was Megan's name. Emily needed answers. But she also knew that walking into her mother's house with the letter could be a mistake. So she made a copy. Then another. She placed the original inside a small box and hid it in her bedroom. She put one copy in her bag. Then she drove to her mother's house. Linda was waiting. The moment Emily entered, her mother looked at her bag. "Did you bring it?" Emily took out the copy. "Yes." Linda reached for it. Emily pulled it back. "I want to know why Dad wrote it." Linda's face tightened. "You should let the past stay buried. He's the one who wrote it. He was sick. He was still my father." Linda looked away. For a moment, Emily thought her mother might finally tell the truth. Instead, Linda said, "Your father didn't always know what he was doing near the end." Emily remembered those final months. Her father had been tired, but his mind had been clear. He had remembered birthdays. He had remembered bills. He had even remembered the name of a restaurant Emily had visited years earlier. He had never seemed confused. "He was clear when he gave me that watch," Emily said. Linda said nothing. "He was clear when he told me he loved me." Her mother's eyes became wet. But she quickly turned away. "Give me the letter." "No." Linda looked back. "What?" "I'm keeping it." "You don't understand." "Then explain it." Linda's voice suddenly became angry. "You always make everything difficult." Emily flinched. There it was again. The same anger. The same way her mother always ended every conversation. Whenever Emily got too close to something, Linda pushed her away. Emily put the copy back into her bag. "I'll leave." "Emily." She stopped. Linda's voice had changed. It was softer now. "You should forget about the property." "Why?" "Because Megan needs it." Emily turned around. The words hung between them. "Why does Megan need Dad's property?" Linda looked uncomfortable. "She has debts." Emily stared at her. So that's what this is about? No. You've been protecting her. She's your sister. And I'm your daughter too. Linda lowered her eyes. Emily waited. But her mother said nothing. That silence hurt more than any insult. Emily left. Outside, she sat in her car. She wanted to cry. Instead, she opened her phone and searched through old messages. She found conversations with Megan from months earlier. At first, everything looked normal. Then Emily noticed something. There were several messages she had completely forgotten about. One was from Megan. Dad left more than we know. Another said, Mom says you don't need to worry about the property. Emily stared at the screen. She had assumed Megan meant the property was being handled normally. Now those words sounded different. Emily kept scrolling. Then she found a message from 6 months earlier. It had been sent at 1:14 in the morning. Please don't ask Mom about the papers. She gets upset. Emily remembered that night. She had been about to ask about the estate. Megan had changed the subject the next morning. Emily had thought nothing of it. Now she knew it mattered. She drove to the local records office. She did not know exactly what she was looking for. She only knew she needed proof. After several hours, she found the property file. Her father's name was there. So was Megan's. Emily's name was there too. But beside her name was something that made her heart stop. A transfer record. According to the document, Emily had signed away her rights to the property. The date was nearly a year after her father's death. Emily stared at the signature. It looked like hers. But she knew she had never signed it. She asked for a copy. The clerk printed it. Emily carried the paper outside. Her hands were shaking. Someone had used her name. Someone had signed for her. And her mother had known. Emily called Megan. Her sister answered after several rings. What? Where are you? At work. I need to ask you something. About Emily what? Heard a small breath on the other end. Why Megan immediately became quiet. Because I found the transfer document. Megan said nothing. Emily waited. Finally, Megan said, Mom told you to leave it alone. Did you sign this? No. Did you know about it? Emily. Did you know? Megan's voice became defensive. You don't understand. Then explain it. It was supposed to be temporary. Emily froze. What was temporary? The transfer. Why would my property be transferred temporarily? Megan stopped speaking. Emily's heart began pounding. Who signed it? I can't talk about this. You just did. Emily, please. Who signed my name? Megan hung up. Emily sat in her car, staring at the phone. She expected to feel angry. Instead, she felt strangely calm. The truth was finally beginning to appear. But she still didn't know how deep it went. That evening, Emily visited her Aunt Sarah. Sarah opened the door and immediately looked nervous. You shouldn't have come here. I need answers. Sarah stepped aside. Emily entered. For several minutes, Sarah said nothing. Then she walked to a cabinet and removed an old folder. I kept this because I thought one day you would need it. Emily looked at the folder. What is it? Your father's estate papers. Emily opened it. There were bank statements, property records, old letters. Then she found something unexpected. A photograph. It showed her father standing beside the property. On the back, he had written, This belongs to both my daughters. No exceptions. Emily's eyes filled with tears. He wrote this. Sarah nodded. He wanted you and Megan to have equal shares. Then why was my name removed? Sarah looked down. Because someone convinced him to sign another paper before he died. Emily's heart sank. What paper? I don't know exactly. But you said someone convinced him. Sarah hesitated. Your mother. Emily felt the room become very quiet. Mom. Sarah nodded. She told him Megan was in serious trouble. What kind of trouble? I don't know. You must know something. Sarah looked toward the window. I heard them arguing 2 weeks before your father died. What did they say? I heard your father say, I will not give her everything. Emily's breathing became shallow. Then Sarah continued. He also said something else. What? He said, if Emily finds out, she will never forgive you. Emily stood completely still. Her father's words echoed in her mind. If Emily finds out. What had he been talking about? Sarah reached into the folder again. There was one more thing. She handed Emily a small receipt. It was from a lawyer's office. The date was 3 days before her father's death. Emily looked at the name of the lawyer. She recognized it immediately. It was the same lawyer who had handled the property transfer after her father's death. But that wasn't the shocking part. The appointment had been made under Megan's name. Emily looked at Sarah. Why would Megan meet Dad's lawyer before Dad died? Sarah's eyes filled with fear. I don't know. Emily turned the receipt over. There was handwriting on the back. A phone number. And underneath it, 4 words. Ask about the second document. Emily looked up. What second document? Sarah's face went pale. Before she could answer, Emily's phone rang. It was Megan. Emily answered. Her sister was crying. Emily, you need to listen to me. What happened? I found something. What? It was in Mom's house. Emily stood up. What did you find? Megan's voice dropped to a whisper. Dad's original will. Emily stopped breathing. What about it? It doesn't say what Mom told you. A loud sound came through the phone. Then Megan whispered. Emily, Mom is here. The call suddenly ended. Emily stared at the screen. A second later, another message appeared. It was from Megan. Don't come to Mom's house. Emily stared at the last message. Then another message arrived. Don't come to Mom's house. Then another message appeared. She's not alone. Emily felt a cold fear move through her. She immediately called Megan. No answer. Again. Nothing. Emily looked at Aunt Sarah. What do we do? Sarah was already reaching for her coat. We wait. For what? For Megan to call again. Emily shook her head. She sounded terrified. I know. Then we can't just sit here. Sarah grabbed Emily's arm. You don't understand. If Linda knows Megan found that will, she may take it. Emily froze. Take it where? I don't know. Sarah looked toward the window. But you need to understand something. Your mother has been hiding things for a long time. Emily's chest tightened. She had spent years defending Linda. Whenever relatives complained about her mother, Emily had made excuses. She is grieving. She is tired. She doesn't mean it. Now every excuse felt like a lie. Emily looked at the old folder on the table. Where is the original will? Sarah shook her head. I don't know. Megan said she found it. And now she has disappeared. Emily's phone rang. It was an unknown number. She answered. Hello. A man's voice spoke. Is this Emily Carter? Yes. My name is Daniel Harris. I'm an attorney. Emily stood straighter. Why are you calling me? I received a message from your father several years ago. Emily's heart started beating faster. My father? Yes. Daniel paused. He asked me to contact you if there was ever a dispute involving his estate. Emily looked at Sarah. Did he tell you anything about the property? Yes. What? I can't discuss the details over the phone. Please. I need to know. Daniel was silent for a moment. Then he said, Your father told me he was afraid someone would try to change his will. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Did he name that person? No. But he gave me one instruction. What instruction? If Emily ever contacts you, give her the sealed envelope. Emily's breath caught. What envelope? Daniel said. I still have it. Emily closed her eyes. For the first time in days, She felt a small piece of hope. Where are you? Downtown. I'll come. Bring identification. I will. Emily hung up. Sarah looked at her. Do you trust him? I don't know. But you're going. Emily nodded. I have to. Before leaving, Sarah placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. Be careful. Emily looked at her. Why? Sarah's expression was serious. Because if your father expected this, then he knew something was coming. Emily drove downtown. Daniel's office was in an old building near the courthouse. He was a quiet man in his 60s. After checking her identification, he closed the office door. Then he opened a locked drawer. He removed a brown envelope. Emily recognized her father's handwriting. Her hands trembled. Why didn't you give this to me before? Daniel looked at her sadly. Your father told me not to contact you unless there was a dispute. There is one. I know. How? Your mother contacted my office 3 months ago. Emily's face changed. She contacted you? Yes. What did she want? She wanted a copy of your father's estate documents. Why? Daniel leaned back. She said you were trying to take control of the property. Emily stared at him. That isn't true. I know. How? Because your father left very clear instructions. Daniel slid a document across the desk. It was the original will. Emily's hands shook as she read it. The property was supposed to be divided equally between Emily and Megan, exactly as her father had promised. But there was another page. A handwritten note. If anyone presents a document showing Emily gave up her share, do not accept it without contacting Daniel Harris directly. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Her father had known. He had expected someone to try. Why didn't you stop the transfer? But you knew it was false. Daniel looked uncomfortable. I suspected it. Then why did it happen? After your father died, another attorney filed your mother brought me a document claiming you had surrendered your rights. Who? Daniel hesitated. Your mother's attorney. Emily slowly sat down. Does my mother know this will exists? Yes. Does Megan? I don't know. Emily looked at the original will again. Then Daniel said something that made her blood run cold. There is another problem. What? The transfer document contains a signature from you. I never signed it. I know. Daniel opened another file. Your signature was copied from an old document. Emily stared at it. Someone had taken her real signature and used it. But who? Daniel shook his head. That is what we need to prove. Emily suddenly remembered Megan's phone call. Her sister had said she found the original will. Then Linda had appeared. Emily stood. I need to find Megan. Daniel looked at her. Before you do, listen carefully. Emily waited. Do not accuse your mother without evidence. I won't. Do not threaten anyone. I won't. And don't tell them what I have shown you. Emily nodded. Why? Because if they know what we have, they may destroy the remaining evidence. Emily left with copies of the documents. She called Megan again. Still nothing. Then she noticed a message from an unknown number. Meet me at the old coffee shop. Come alone. Emily knew that place. It was where she and Megan had gone after their father's funeral. She drove there. Megan was sitting in the corner. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red. Emily sat across from her. What happened? Megan looked around. Mom knows. Knows what? That I found Dad's will. Where is it? Megan reached into her purse. But before she could take it out, she stopped. Emily, there is something you need to know. What? Megan looked at her sister. I was the one who gave Mom your old signature. Emily felt as if the room had disappeared. What? Megan started crying. Mom said it was for paperwork. You gave her my signature. I didn't know what she was going to do. You helped her. I know. Emily stood. You knew she was trying to take my property. I didn't know at first. When did you know? Megan covered her face. After Dad died. Emily felt anger rising inside her. You could have told me. I was scared. Of Mom. Megan nodded. She told me if I didn't cooperate, she would lose the house. Emily stared at her. What does that mean? Megan pulled out the original will. Then she placed it on the table. She didn't want the property for me. Emily looked confused. Then why? Megan whispered. She wanted to sell it. Emily's heart stopped. For what? Megan looked down. Dad had debts. Emily frowned. Dad's debts were paid. Not all of them. That doesn't make sense. Megan shook her head. Because the debt wasn't Dad's. Emily felt a chill. Whose was it? Megan looked directly at her. Mom's. Emily said nothing. Megan continued. Mom borrowed money before Dad died. A lot of it. How much? Enough to lose the house. Emily stared at her. And she used Dad's property to cover it. Megan nodded. But there is something worse. What? Megan leaned closer. Dad knew. Emily's heart pounded. He knew Mom was in debt. Yes. Then why didn't he stop her? Because he was protecting us. Emily shook her head. From what? Megan's eyes filled with tears. He didn't want the family to know that Mom had been taking money from his business account. Emily went completely still. Her father had owned a small construction company. If Linda had taken money from it, the problem could be much bigger than the property. How much? Megan whispered the amount. Emily could barely breathe. It was far more than she expected. Then Megan reached into her purse again. This time she pulled out a small flash drive. What's that? Mom's old computer. Emily stared at it. There are copies of everything on here. Everything. Megan nodded. Bank records. Emails. Messages. Emily took the drive. Why are you giving this to me now? Megan's voice broke. Because I finally realized something. What? She never wanted to protect me. Megan wiped her eyes. She wanted someone to blame. Emily looked at the flash drive. Who? Megan looked toward the window. Then she whispered. You. Before Emily could answer, Megan's phone began ringing. The caller's name appeared on the screen. Mom. Megan didn't answer. The phone stopped. Then it rang again. This time, a message appeared. Megan opened it. Her face turned white. Emily looked at her. What did she say? Megan slowly turned the phone around. The message contained only one sentence. I know you're with Emily. Emily's stomach dropped. A second message appeared. And I know about the lawyer. Then a third. If you want to know what really happened to your father, come home tonight. Emily looked at Megan. Neither sister spoke. Because suddenly, the property was no longer the biggest mystery. The real question was much darker. What exactly had Linda been hiding about their father's final days? Emily read the message again. If you want to know what really happened to your father, come home tonight. For several seconds, she could not move. Megan sat across from her, holding her phone with both hands. She knows everything, Megan whispered. Emily looked at the flash drive on the table. No, she said calmly. She knows we found something. Megan shook her head. What if she knows about the lawyer? Then she knows we are getting close. What are we going to do? Emily looked at her sister. For the first time in years, Megan did not look like the confident sister who always had the family support. She looked frightened. We don't go to Mom's tonight, Emily said. Megan looked surprised. Then where do we go? Somewhere she can't control. Emily took out her phone. She called Daniel. He answered quickly. Emily. She knows about you. There was a pause. How? I don't know. Did she mention my name? Yes. Daniel became quiet. Then you need to be careful. I have the original will. Keep it safe. I also have a flash drive. What is on it? Bank records. Emails. Messages. Megan says it contains evidence about money Mom took from Dad's business. Daniel took a slow breath. That could change everything. Emily looked at Megan. We need somewhere secure. I know a place, Daniel said. Meet me at my office. They left the coffee shop separately. Emily drove first. Megan followed from a distance. Neither sister spoke much. Both were thinking about the same thing. Their father. For years, they had believed his final months were peaceful. Now they were learning that he had been fighting a battle inside his own home. When they reached Daniel's office, he locked the door behind them. Megan placed the flash drive on the desk. Daniel connected it to a computer that was not connected to the internet. Several folders appeared. Bank statements. Emails. Scanned documents. Photos. Daniel opened the first folder. Emily leaned closer. There were records showing large transfers from the construction company. Some went to accounts Emily did not recognize. Others went to a private lender. The dates were spread across several months. Megan looked at her sister. That was Mom. Emily said nothing. Daniel opened another file. It contained emails. Most were between Linda and a man named Victor Hale. Emily did not know him. Who is Victor? She asked. Daniel searched the name. Then his face changed. He is a private lender. Emily looked at Megan. Megan nodded slowly. I've heard Mom mention that name. Daniel opened an email. Linda had written that she needed more time. Victor had replied that he would wait only if she provided security. The security was the family property. Emily felt sick. Her mother had been using the property as a guarantee. But there was more. Another email showed that Linda had told Victor that Emily would eventually sign away her share. Emily stared at the screen. She planned this before Dad died. Daniel nodded. It appears so. Megan began crying. I didn't know. Emily looked at her. I believe you didn't know everything. Megan wiped her face. But I still helped her. Emily did not answer. She was still reading. Then she found a folder titled, Dad, Final Week. Her hand stopped. Daniel noticed. Don't open anything alone. Emily nodded. He opened the folder. There were scanned pages. Medical notes. Phone records. A photograph of a handwritten page. Then one audio file. Daniel looked at Emily. Do you want to hear it? Emily hesitated. Then she nodded. Daniel pressed play. Her father's voice filled the room. Weak. Tired. But clear. If you're hearing this, something has happened that I was afraid of. Emily covered her mouth. It was him. Her father. The man she had not heard since the week he died. His voice continued. I don't know who I can trust. Emily's eyes filled with tears. I know Linda has been taking money from the business. Megan closed her eyes. I tried to stop it. She said she needed the money. She promised she would return it. There was a long pause in the recording. Then their father spoke again. But she has borrowed from someone else too. Emily looked at Daniel. Victor, she whispered. The recording continued. I changed my will because I don't want my daughters blamed for her choices. Emily's heart broke. If Linda tries to use the property, the girls must not lose their shares. Her father coughed. Then his voice became softer. Emily is stronger than she thinks. Emily began to cry. She will want to fix everything. She always does. But she must learn that she cannot save everyone. The recording ended. Nobody spoke. Megan was crying openly now. Emily wiped her face. For years, she had believed she failed her father because she could not save him. Now she understood. He had never blamed her. He had trusted her. Daniel opened another document. This is important. Emily looked at the screen. It was a letter from the lender. Victor had demanded payment. The deadline was 2 days after the family dinner. Emily stared at the date. That's tomorrow. Daniel nodded. Which means your mother is running out of time. Megan looked confused. Why would she invite us home tonight? Emily thought for a moment. She wants the original will. And the flash drive, Daniel added. Emily nodded. She knows she can't force the property transfer if the real will comes out. Megan looked frightened. What will she do? I don't know. Emily looked at the clock. Then she made a decision. We go home. Megan stared at her. What? We go home. You just said we shouldn't. I said we shouldn't go without a plan. Daniel nodded slowly. You want her to believe she still has control. Yes. Emily took the original will from her bag. Then she placed it inside a protective folder. We won't give her anything. Daniel looked at her carefully. You're thinking ahead. Emily gave a small smile. I've spent years trying to keep everyone happy. She looked at Megan. I'm done doing that. They drove to Linda's house after dark. The front door was unlocked. Emily immediately felt uneasy. Mom. Megan called. No answer. They entered. The house was unusually quiet. The lights were on. A table had been set in the dining room. 3 plates. 3 glasses. 3 chairs. Emily stopped. This looks like a dinner. Megan whispered. She knew we'd come. Emily slowly walked toward the table. There was an envelope in front of her chair. Her name was written on it. She opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Emily. Before you judge me, you need to know what happened the night your father died. Emily's hands became cold. She continued reading. He did not die believing I betrayed him. Emily looked at Megan. What does that mean? Megan shook her head. I don't know. A sound came from upstairs. Both sisters froze. Footsteps. Slow. Someone was walking down the stairs. Linda appeared. She looked strangely calm. I'm glad you came. Emily stood still. Where is everyone else? There is no one else. Why did you ask us here? Linda looked at the envelope in Emily's hand. Because you deserve to know the truth. Emily felt her heart pounding. You should have told me years ago. Linda looked down. I was afraid. Of what? Linda walked toward the table. Of losing everything. You already lost us. Linda's eyes filled with tears. You don't understand. Then explain. Linda looked at Megan. Your sister knows part of it. Megan shook her head. I don't know anything. Linda slowly sat down. Then she said something that neither daughter expected. Your father didn't die because of his illness. Emily froze. What? Linda's voice trembled. He died after a fight with me. Megan stepped back. What are you saying? Linda looked at Emily. Your father discovered what I had done. Emily's breathing became shallow. What did you do? Linda reached beneath the table. She pulled out an old envelope. Then she placed it in front of Emily. Read this. Emily opened it. Inside was a medical report. Her father's name was at the top. The date was 3 days before his death. Emily read the first few lines. Then her face went pale. The report mentioned a serious medication error. She looked at her mother. Mom. Linda's voice broke. I gave him the wrong medicine. Megan covered her mouth. Emily could barely speak. You killed Dad. Linda shook her head desperately. No. Then what happened? Linda looked toward the hallway. I made a mistake. Emily stared at the report. Then she noticed something strange. The doctor's signature was dated 2 days after her father's death. She looked up. This report was written after he died. Linda went silent. Emily's fear turned into suspicion. Mom. Linda did not answer. Emily turned the page. There was another name. A witness. And Emily recognized it. It was Victor Hale. The man who had been lending Linda money. Emily looked at Megan. Then back at her mother. Suddenly, she understood. The story Linda had prepared was not the truth. It was another lie. And someone had created the fake medical report to make it look like their father's death had been an accident. Emily slowly put the paper down. Who made this? Linda's face went completely white. Before she could answer, the front door opened. A man's voice came from the hallway. Linda. Everyone froze. Victor Hale had arrived. And he was holding a gun-shaped black case in his hand. The front door closed behind Victor. Emily did not move. Neither did Megan. Victor stood in the hallway holding a long black case. For one terrible second, Emily thought it contained a weapon. Then Victor placed it carefully on the floor and opened it. Inside were folders, hard drives, and several thick envelopes. No weapon. Emily released the breath she had been holding. Victor looked at Linda. You told me they wouldn't come. Linda's face had gone pale. I thought they wouldn't. Victor looked at Emily. Then you must be Emily. Emily said nothing. Victor picked up one of the folders. I think it's time everyone stopped lying. Linda stood quickly. You can't do this. Victor looked at her. I already did. Megan moved closer to Emily. What is going on? Victor pointed to the documents. Your mother borrowed money from me. A lot of it. She used your father's business accounts to make some payments. Then she promised me the property would cover the rest. Emily stared at Linda. Is that true? Linda's eyes filled with tears. Yes. Emily felt hurt, but she stayed calm. Then why did you tell everyone Dad wanted Megan to have the property? Linda said nothing. Victor answered for her. Because she needed everyone to believe you had given up your share. Emily looked at the folder on the table. The fake signature. Victor nodded. Your mother got a copy of your signature from an old bank form. Megan looked at Linda in disbelief. You told me it was just paperwork. Linda turned toward her. I was trying to save the house. You used Emily. I had no choice. Emily finally spoke. You always had a choice. Linda looked at her daughter. For a moment, her anger disappeared. She looked old. Tired. Afraid. I thought I could fix everything. You made everything worse. Linda lowered her head. Emily looked at Victor. What about Dad's death? Victor's expression changed. That is why I came. Linda immediately said, no. Victor ignored her. He opened another folder. Your father discovered the missing money before he died. Emily's heart sank. What happened after that? Your father threatened to report your mother. Megan covered her mouth. Victor continued. Linda panicked. She had already promised the property to me as security. Emily looked at her mother. Did Dad change his will because of this? Yes, Linda whispered. He made sure the property could not be taken from either daughter. Emily understood. That was why her father had left the warning. He had known exactly what Linda was doing. But there was still one question. What about the medical report? Victor looked at Linda. Linda's eyes filled with tears. I made a mistake, she whispered. Emily waited. Linda sat down. The night your father became sick, he had already taken his normal medicine. She wiped her face. I was angry. We had argued about the money. What did you do? I gave him another dose. Megan shook her head. Mom. I thought it was the same medicine. Emily stared at her. But it wasn't. Linda nodded. I realized too late. Emily felt sick. Did you call for help? Linda covered her face. Yes. Then why is there a report saying it was an accident? Victor answered. Because Linda asked someone to change the records. Emily looked at the medical report. Who? Victor reached into the black case. He removed another document. The doctor. Emily took it. There was a written statement attached. The doctor admitted that he had been pressured to change the report. He had later kept a private copy of the original record. Emily's hands trembled. What did the original say? Victor looked at her. That your father's condition became worse because of the wrong medication. Megan began crying. But did Mom kill him? Victor shook his head. No. Everyone looked at him. Your father had a serious illness. The medication error made his condition worse, but it did not directly cause his death. Emily closed her eyes. A strange mixture of relief and pain filled her. Her father had not been murdered, but his final days had been surrounded by lies. And her mother had helped hide them. Emily opened her eyes. Why tell us now? Victor gave a tired smile. Because your mother stopped paying me. Linda looked at him angrily. You promised to wait. I did. I needed more time. You have had 3 years. Emily looked at Victor. So you came for the property? Yes. But the property isn't yours. Victor nodded. Not anymore. He pointed to another document. I have already signed an agreement releasing my claim. Emily looked confused. Why? Because I learned your mother used false documents. So you are helping us. Victor shook his head. Don't mistake it for kindness. He looked at Linda. I simply don't want to be part of a fraud case. Emily looked at the documents again. There were bank records, copies of emails, the doctor's statement, the original will, and the fake transfer. Everything was there. Her mother had spent years trying to control the story. Now the truth was sitting on the table. Emily turned toward Linda. Why did you tell me you wished I had never been your daughter? Linda began to cry. Because I knew you were getting close. To what? To the truth. Emily felt a deep sadness. You could have told me. I was ashamed. You could have asked for help. I thought you would hate me. Emily looked at her. I hated what you did. Linda nodded. I know. But I never wanted to hate you. Linda covered her face. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then there was a knock at the door. Victor looked toward the hallway. Who is that? Linda stood. I don't know. The knock came again. This time, it was louder. Emily stepped back. Megan moved beside her. Linda opened the door. A man stood outside. He was wearing a dark jacket. He held an official folder. Linda Carter. Yes. My name is Robert Miller. I'm from the county legal office. Linda's face lost all color. Robert looked at Emily. Are you Emily Carter? Yes. I need to speak with you. Linda stepped forward. Why? Robert opened the folder. We received information about a disputed property transfer. Emily looked at Victor. He slowly nodded. Robert continued. We also received documents related to possible financial fraud. Linda closed her eyes. The moment she had feared had arrived. But Robert was not finished. There is one more matter. He looked directly at Emily. Your father's original estate records were submitted to us this morning. Emily frowned. By whom? Robert hesitated. That's the strange part. What do you mean? The records were submitted anonymously. Emily looked at the documents in her hand. Then she noticed something. A small note was attached to the back of the original will. She had not seen it before. She pulled it free. Her father's handwriting covered the paper. If my family ever reaches this point, Emily must know one thing. She read the next sentence. The person you think betrayed you was not the person who started this. Emily stopped. Her eyes moved slowly across the page. There was one final line. Ask Sarah about the night before I died. Emily looked at Aunt Sarah's name in her mind. But Sarah was not in the room. She had been helping Emily from the beginning. Or at least, Emily thought she had. Emily's phone suddenly buzzed. A message appeared. It was from Sarah. Emily, don't trust Victor. Emily stared at the screen. Then another message arrived. And please don't tell Mom I warned you. Emily looked up. Victor was watching her. His expression had changed. Who messaged you? He asked. Emily slowly put the phone away. No one. Victor stared at her for a moment. Then he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Your father was right about one thing, he said. Emily's heart began beating faster. What? Victor closed the black case. Your family has been lying to you for years. He paused. But your mother wasn't the only one. The room became silent. Emily looked at Megan. Then at Linda. Then at the message from Sarah. For the first time, she wondered if the person she had trusted most during this nightmare had been hiding the biggest secret of all. And somewhere across town, Aunt Sarah was already deleting something from her phone. Emily stared at the message from Sarah. Don't trust Victor. Then the second message appeared. And please don't tell Mom I warned you. Emily slowly put her phone down. Across the room, Victor watched her carefully. What did she say? He asked again. Emily kept her voice calm. She said nothing important. Victor gave a small smile. He knew she was lying. Linda was still standing near the door. She looked confused. What is happening? She asked. Emily looked at her mother. I think we should all sit down. Nobody argued. They returned to the dining room. The documents were still spread across the table. The original will. The false transfer. The bank records. The doctor's statement. And now, the message from Sarah. Emily looked at each person in the room. Her mother. Her sister. Victor. The legal officer. Everyone seemed to know a different piece of the story. But Emily was beginning to realize something. The story was bigger than the property. Victor, she said, you said my father was right about my family. Yes. You said my mother wasn't the only person lying to me. Yes. Then tell me who else. Victor looked at Linda. Linda shook her head. Don't. Victor ignored her. It was Sarah. Emily's heart sank. No. Megan looked at him. What did Aunt Sarah do? Victor leaned back. She wasn't just your mother's sister. Emily frowned. What does that mean? She was involved with your father's business. Emily stared at him. That isn't possible. It is. Victor opened another folder. Inside were old business records. Sarah's name appeared on several pages. Emily read them carefully. Her aunt had been listed as an outside bookkeeper for the company. She had handled some of the payments. Some of the money that had disappeared had passed through accounts connected to Sarah. Emily shook her head. She helped Dad with the business. Victor nodded. And she helped your mother move money. Megan stood. You're lying. Victor looked at her. Then asked her. Emily's phone rang. Sarah. Emily stared at the screen. She answered. Sarah. There was silence. Then Sarah whispered. Emily, listen to me. Did you take money from Dad's company? Another silence. I can explain. Emily closed her eyes. The words hurt. Just answer me. Yes. Megan covered her mouth. Emily felt as if the floor had shifted beneath her. How much? I don't know. You don't know. Your mother asked me to move some money. And you did. Yes. Why? Sarah began crying. Because I thought it would save your father. Emily's voice became colder. Save him from what? Sarah did not answer. Emily looked at Victor. He was watching her. Tell me the truth, Emily said. Sarah finally whispered. Your father had discovered everything. Everything about Mom. Not just Mom. Emily waited. Sarah took a shaky breath. He knew I had helped her. Emily closed her eyes. There it was. Another betrayal. Her aunt had been part of it. But Emily still did not understand the biggest question. Why did Dad change his will? Sarah's voice broke. Because he knew the business was in trouble. What kind of trouble? Debt. Because of Mom. No. Emily froze. Then who? Sarah said nothing. Emily's heart began pounding. Sarah. I can't. You owe me the truth. Sarah started crying. Then she said. Your father was the one who borrowed the money. Emily stared at Victor. Victor slowly nodded. What? Sarah continued. Your father had taken a large loan before he became sick. He wanted to expand the business. Emily felt dizzy. But Mom told me he had no debts. She lied. Why? Because your father lost a major contract. Emily remembered the old construction company. It had seemed successful from the outside. But perhaps it had been struggling for years. Sarah continued. Your father was afraid the family would lose everything. Emily whispered. Then why did he blame Mom? He didn't. Emily looked confused. What? Your father never blamed your mother for the debt. Sarah's voice trembled. He blamed himself. Emily sat down. For the first time, she understood why the family had been so desperate. But there was still something missing. If Dad had the debt, why did Mom take money? Sarah replied. Because your father asked her to. Emily's eyes widened. What? He told her to move money from one account to another while he tried to save the business. Emily looked at the bank records. So Mom wasn't stealing at first. No. What happened? She kept borrowing. Emily's voice became quiet. Why? To cover the money that was already missing. Sarah paused. Then everything became impossible to control. Emily looked at her mother. Linda was crying silently. Is that true? Linda nodded. Yes. Emily felt anger rising again. Then why did you let me believe you betrayed Dad? Linda wiped her eyes. Because I thought it was easier. Easier? If you knew the truth, you would have tried to fix everything. Emily stared at her. I would have helped. I know. Then why didn't you tell me? Linda's face collapsed. Because your father made me promise. Emily froze. What promise? That you would never know how bad things had become. Why? He wanted you to have a normal life. Emily looked down. Her father had been trying to protect her. But his protection had created a maze of lies. Then Emily remembered something. The letter. She took out her father's letter. Dad said not to trust anyone who told me the property was given away. Linda looked at it. He knew I would try to take it. But you did. I had to. No, Mom. Emily's voice was calm. You didn't have to steal from me. Linda lowered her head. I was desperate. The legal officer stepped forward. Mrs. Carter, desperation does not make a false signature legal. Linda nodded. I know. Emily looked at Victor. You said Sarah wasn't the only person involved. Victor was quiet. Then he opened the final folder. This is the part your family never wanted you to see. He placed several pages on the table. Emily looked down. They were letters. Her father's handwriting again. But these letters were addressed to Victor. The first one was dated months before his death. It said, I know what Linda has done. I know what Sarah has done. But I also know my daughter Emily will try to save everyone if she finds out. Emily's eyes filled with tears. The second letter said, if anything happens to me, do not let them sell the property. It belongs to my daughters. The third letter was shorter. And do not trust the doctor. Emily looked up. What? Victor nodded. The doctor who wrote the false report wasn't the only doctor involved. What do you mean? Your father's regular doctor refused to change his records. Emily stared at the page. Then who did? Victor pointed to the name. Emily read it. Her face went pale. It was a doctor she remembered. Dr. James Cole. He had been her father's closest medical advisor. But there was something even stranger. The letter was dated one day before her father's death. Emily whispered. Dad knew the doctor would lie. Victor nodded. He expected someone to try to change the story after he died. Megan looked at Emily. Then why did he leave that recording? Emily slowly answered. Because he knew nobody would believe us. The room became silent. Then the legal officer's phone rang. He stepped outside to answer it. A minute later, he returned. His face was serious. Emily, there is a problem. What? The anonymous person who sent us the estate records has just contacted the office again. Emily's heart raced. What did they say? The man looked at her. They said the documents you have are not the complete set. Emily frowned. What is missing? One final document. Which one? The man hesitated. Your father's original death certificate. Emily's stomach tightened. That shouldn't matter. It might. Why? The officer looked at Victor. Victor slowly stood. Because the official date of your father's death may be wrong. Emily stared at him. What? Victor reached into the black case one final time. He removed a sealed envelope. He placed it on the table. Your father may have died 2 days later than your family was told. Nobody moved. Megan whispered. That's impossible. Victor shook his head. Then ask yourself why someone changed the medical records. Emily stared at the envelope. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. There was one name written across the front. Emily Carter. She opened it. Inside was a photograph. It showed her father sitting in a hospital bed. Alive. Smiling weakly. The date printed beneath the photograph was 2 days after the family had been told he was dead. Emily stopped breathing. Then she turned the photograph over. 5 words were written on the back. He was alive when I left. Emily looked at the handwriting. It belonged to Sarah. And suddenly, the biggest question was no longer who stole the property. It was this. What happened to Emily's father during those missing 2 days? And why had Sarah been the last person to see him alive?